Yeah, so to start with the Inflation Reduction Act in the U.S., that lists several things that are very positive for the wind industry. A kind of a continuation of the tax credits that will affect the economics of projects and make developers eager to kind of get started on those projects. We think that will have quite a strong impact on the onshore wind market in the US, not so much on the offshore wind. It's in isolation a positive, but we also do see other supply chain issues there, which will make offshore wind take a little bit longer time. And also the fact that, there are specific credits for the manufacturing of components into the kind of the clean energy space, which also will speed up the domestic supply chain in order to support this capacity build out. For Repower EU, in a way, the specifics have been a little bit less, or it has been a little bit less specific towards the wind industry. It sets a 45% share of renewable energy in the power mix. It sets a clear capacity target for solar, but we know that it will also lead to increased investments and capacity expansion in the wind industry. Now, you kind of following the Repower EU was the Green Deal Industrial Plan, which had the Net Zero Industry Act, the Critical Raw Materials Act, and those acts have been very specific in terms of shortening permitting time, prioritizing key manufacturing projects, building out the correct and the most critical and strategically right projects, as well as kind of focusing on the supply chain, but a little bit less concrete in actually kind of supporting that supply chain expansion that is needed in Europe.
ما هي إذن توقعاتكم في رايستاد لنمو إنتاج الكهرباء من الرياح خلال السنوات الخمس المقبلة حتى عام 2027؟ وكيف يمكن أن تتوزع تلك الأرقام جغرافياً وأن نقسمها ما بين رياح على اليابسة ورياح بحرية؟
So I think our base case towards 2027 is, we just surpassed around a terawatt of capacity for wind globally. We expect that to reach around 1.6 terawatts by 2027. So that is a 60% increase from 2023. At the same time, we see that offshore wind is definitely the fastest growing because of it's coming from a quite low base, around 60 gigawatts at the end of last year. So it's very small compared to the onshore wind market, but it is going to grow very rapidly towards 2027. Now, when you talk about different geographies, the three main engines will be Asia, driven by China, Europe, and primarily North America, driven by the US. For the US, it's mostly onshore wind, as we do expect it to take time with offshore wind, as I mentioned. For Europe, it is both onshore wind, but to a larger extent offshore wind in terms of the share of capacity deployment. And also in China, we see a lot of both onshore and offshore wind following those very kind of supportive structures with the feed-in tariffs that were phased out for onshore wind in 2020 and offshore wind in 2021. We still see quite healthy activity levels in China.
أخيراً أليكس، ما هي آخر التطورات على صعيد تكلفة إنتاج الكهرباء من طاقة الرياح البحرية؟ هل شهدت مزيداً من التراجع في كلفتها مؤخراً أم أن وتيرة التراجعات تباطأت في الأشهر الأخيرة؟
We are, but it has stagnated a little bit. I think what we've seen is, a very, very strong cost reduction over the last decade, which is kind of flattened out now that and even increased in some regions and for some projects due to the inflationary pressure that we have been seeing. But as we see with the turbine OEMs, they show no signs of kind of stopping at the current turbine size models. That will continue. So we do expect that cost will come down as the inflationary pressure kind of slows or cools down, if you will. At the same time, we're also expecting transmission to be more kind of more hybrid systems where several projects can be combined into the same kind of transmission projects and so forth, which can further cut costs. So a little bit, medium to long term, we can still expect to see further cost cuts. It should be mentioned that the increased sizes that are driving these cost reductions will of course lead to increased investments in the kind of, let's say, the adjacent parts of the value chain. So there is a limit also to how big these components can get before actually the costs become higher again. So a plateau is probably within sight, but we still expect further declines.